Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast presented by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Steven, and I am the host as always. And joining me is my guy, Tyler. Tyler, what is up, man? How are you doing tonight?
Well, my light keeps having this weird surge where I go from light to slightly more light. So for whatever reason, it's now super bright in my face. So overall, dude, I'll be completely honest. I'm mostly grumpy. This season is basically over. The Chargers are 4-7. It's November, and I got to preview a game against the Patriots, who stink. And Brandon Staley is preparing for one of three quarterbacks, and hopefully one of them throws for 100 yards for the Patriots this week. They're praying.
Yeah, I don't know about grumpy, but this week has definitely been a drag. Tyler's fixing his light here, so as an educator, this is Tyler's first year being a teacher, but as an educator, the first week after a break is always a drag. So it's been a long week for sure, but that's kind of why we wanted to do this show live tonight. We figured, the season's essentially over. Why be alone in our misery tonight? So we figured, let's go live. Let's talk about some things with the people. And so we'll do some questions and talk about some topics about this game. So if you guys have anything, feel free to let it fly. We'll shout out some stuff as we go. We'll obviously preview the game like we always do. We're not going to do the in-depth Patriots look. Patriots are a terrible team. Like, all their key players are injured. Although did you do a slideshow?
Heck yeah, I did a slideshow.
Okay. All right. So we are going to do our usual Patriots thing, I guess.
If you want to. It's there for us if we need to.
We'll at least take a look at the slideshow because it looks like it's worth using. So Super Chats obviously appreciated as always. So we'll get to some of this stuff that you guys want to talk about. Obviously, we can't talk about everything deliberately, but we'll talk about some stuff. A lot of draft questions, people moving on to the draft already. So I totally get it. Chargers 4-7. We'll see what happens here. All right, Tyler, let's dive in here to the slideshow. I love the patriotic theme here. This is a very interesting Patriots team. I'm not used to them being so bad. Obviously, they've been not Super Bowl caliber over the last couple of seasons, but the Patriots sitting at 2-9. They're terrible on offense. They're terrible on special teams. They're okay-ish on defense for the most part. But what's kind of your consensus here about the Patriots and the standing of Bill Belichick right now?
Outside of Bill Belichick, my whole take on the staff this year and really the last few years is what is this? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien is definitely an upgrade over Matt Patricia, almost by default. I feel that I may have been an upgrade over Matt Patricia. I at least would get along with the locker room. So at least there's that. Yeah. The offense, unfortunately, is not great. 27th in DVOA. Special teams, that isn't great. Long gone are the days with the Patriots special teams would demolish the Chargers. Now the Chargers have a special teams advantage, probably for the first time in a very, very long time. And then there's no official defensive coordinators. Gerard Mayo, Steve Belichick. It seems like they take over some aspects of it. Both of them coach inside and then outside linebackers, but there's no like official one. Technically, It's probably Bill Belichick too. Who knows? So really, my whole takeaway is, what is this? As far as Bill Belichick goes, I kind of side with Bill Burr on this one. He went on the Rich Eisen show and talked about how, geez, does no one in New England have anything else to talk about? I mean, Bill Belichick, I understand all the deficiencies and issues this season, but like he'll be there next year is my guess. And I think he'll be there for as long as he really feels like he wants to be there. I don't know that it's officially like a Tomlin situation because Tomlin has continuously won. But when you win as many Super Bowls as you have, you can maybe be afforded a couple of not so great seasons. And I think the Mac Jones pick has really set them back, as well as a lot of other personnel decisions and staff decisions. But they're on pace for a Caleb Williams, Drake May, whoever they want. And they're just going to kind of restart and re-kick off everything. And so I think he's sticking around. I know people are talking about Bill Belichick in many different capacities, but I feel like he's sticking around and he's going to walk right into the number 3 overall pick and get the quarterback of the future.
Well, first of all, I was not expecting a Bill Burr reference on that show, but it is what it is. As a sidebar related to Bill Burr, Brooke and I watched the movie Leo last night with Adam Sandler and Bill Burr. They voice reptiles in a 5th grade class. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's outstanding. Very wholesome content as opposed to the usual Adam Sandler and Bill Burr content. So go watch that one if you please. Regarding Bill Belichick, man, he's the GOAT. Like, he's unquestionably the best coach ever, most accomplished for sure. He has zero business coaching another young quarterback. Like, I'm sorry, like Mac Jones, like you can criticize the pick or whatever, but he was definitely a above average functional quarterback as a rookie. And what do you do to support him over the last couple of seasons? You make Matt Patricia a defensive the coordinator. You bring in Joe Judge, who's a special teams defensive coach, to be like the quarterback's coach. And then you go back to Bill O'Brien. The offensive line is terrible. The receivers that you put around him are terrible. Demario Douglas is their leading receiver this year, who was like a 6th-round draft pick from Liberty. Like, the way that Mac Jones has panned out is firmly on Bill Belichick's plate, in my opinion, because they've done nothing to support him over the last couple of seasons. I was never expecting Mac Jones to be like an elite quarterback, but they have destroyed Mac Jones's career. So for me, like he has zero business coaching another young quarterback because the coaching staff has been atrocious. The supporting cast has been atrocious. Like, Bill Belichick absolutely deserves blame for what has happened with Mac Jones and the way the offense is playing. Is he going to stick around in New England? Probably. I don't know, but not for very long. Like, I think he's intent on getting that Don Shula record and then going to peace out. But I think Bill Belichick is obviously, like, he deserves some grace for what things have happened because he's won so many Super Bowls, but he's far from above reproach right now because they're terrible on offense, and they have been for the last few years.
Yeah, the allocation of resources and draft picks. I mean, some of the notable ones, Hunter Henry. I understand why you go get Hunter Henry and why you get Jonnu Smith, but they spent so much money on them. And then you look at the draft picks recently. I mean, we were in Vegas when they took Tyquan Thornton in the 2nd round, and we were thinking, what the heck are you doing? Respect to Thornton, but he was like the day 3, 4th rounder, and like 4th rounder almost felt early because of the one thing that he could do. So it definitely has not been great. He has, I don't want to say ruined Mac Jones. I was never a huge Mac Jones fan, but still there was clearly no progression from him. It's only been worse. And just watching them against, I don't know how involved he would be with play calling at all, but watching him against the Giants, watching this pass game, it's just kind of sad to see, man. Like, there was definitely more at Alabama with what Mac Jones was able to do than what you see here with the Patriots. Not a great supporting cast overall, but yeah, it's a bummer to see for Mac Jones, who, started okay, I think, and you felt like there were some building blocks for the future. And now, here they are sitting with a top 4, top 5 pick, probably going to be top 3. Bill's going to get another crack at it.
It's so ridiculous. Like, of course, like the one year that they're finally bad, they're going to get a generational quarterback. Like, of course. It's ridiculous.
Right. So,
but yeah, like, I think Bill O'Brien is a good coach. Like, I don't think this season is an indictment on Bill O'Brien, at least from an offensive perspective. I mean, I was listening to the Athletic Football Show and Kiefer on the Beats, and I forget his first name. I think it's Joe, person who covers the Panthers for the Athletic, was talking about Bill O'Brien as like a potential head coaching candidate for the Panthers because of his obviously relationship with Bryce Young. So we'll see what happens. But I think Bill is definitely deserves criticism for what has happened there, as Brandon Arias points out. Maybe Kraft kind of works out a situation where he's no longer the GM. Maybe you bring in somebody else and just let Bill kind of focus in on coaching. Maybe that's a situation that Bill would agree to. But
yeah,
I mean, he's had so much power and control of this roster for so long. I don't know if that would actually come to fruition here. So free agency roster wise, this is not the same old roster that we are used to seeing from the Patriots. They've had a lot of turnover. A lot of these guys who are additions and to this team, like I don't even know if they're really playing. Like Ezekiel Elliott is playing and starting for them, but the roster just is really not in great shape right now. Obviously, JC Jackson is back, so that's a fun thing to look forward to.
Yeah, if you look at the roster overall, the roster in general, in particular on offense, it really is like the greatest hits of the 2010s or something when it comes to the personnel that they have. I mean,
yeah,
or like most promising group, obviously the Hunter Henry, but then it's Mike Gesicki, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Reagor, Tyquan Thornton, Pharaoh Brown. Like, it's such a strange almost group, a group of misfits, if you will. And of course, lo and behold, the one person who's leading them is Demario Douglas, a 6th rounder. After they spend all these resources and tried different things for all these players, it's the 6th rounder that's leading them. And we get into the draft class right now. I was definitely surprised going through, but with how much these guys are contributing. But I don't want to equate contributing with being really good. Just because you're starting or playing a lot of snaps does not mean you're good. Dude, I know you more than anyone. I wish Christian Gonzalez were still healthy because he was that defensive rookie of the year candidate. A lot of these corners are playing awesome football right now. I wish Gonzalez were still out there. Maybe not for this week. Keon White has been not super productive for them.
Yeah.
Not a huge surprise for most of us. You didn't like him nearly all that much. I liked him enough, but I certainly had him at like 9th or 10th maybe in edge rankings, and it's kind of showing up here. City Sale playing a lot of snaps. Chad Ryland is another, and like every kicker that's been drafted, I feel like the last 2 years has missed. It's wild that the Chargers ended up with 3 good ones last year. They traded away a good one and still ended up with Cameron Dicker, who's been great. But then, of course, Demario Douglas, 36 catches, 410 receiving yards. So these guys are all contributing. They're playing quite a bit. I just don't know how much they're all really going to develop and be good. But yeah, it's a contributing class. I'm not sure it's a good one.
Yeah, I'm bummed about Antonio Maffi and his PBE being that low. I liked him. I think this fit for him is a little questionable. Obviously, the Patriots used to be this offensive line factory, which is when Dante Scarnecchia was there, but that's obviously not the case right now. So they'll have some guys move into bigger roles, like Josh Uche and some of these pass rushers in front of Keon White are probably going to be, moving on into next year. And, Demario Douglas is like their best receiver right now. So, I mean, that's like, this is a better class than I think I would have expected. It's not like loaded with guys, but hey, man, like Christian Gonzalez, you hit on him. You get some value from these day 3 guys. Maybe Keon White or Marte Mapu turns into something, and you have a pretty good class here. So the kicker thing is interesting. Chad Ryland, obviously they kept him over Nick Folk, and Nick Folk has been fantastic for the Titans. So, Chad Ryland has cost them a couple of games right now. So maybe intentionally, maybe some taking going on. I'm not really sure there. But the class it's tough to evaluate because you didn't draft Keon White to have him be your best pass rusher, and he's playing a lot. But it is what it is. A guy like oh my gosh, Matthew Judon would help a lot and really be able to figure things out there from the defensive line perspective.
Where did the Chargers trade? Or nope. Well, where did the Patriots trade out from? Oh, from Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh went to 14. Okay, then Patriots traded back to.
Didn't the Patriots make like 2 moves?
Maybe they.
How do I look at this? Because if I look at Pro Football Reference, it just says who took them, but I
Right.
don't.
I was in like NFL draft on ESPN. I just typed in like NFL draft results, and they definitely got the pick from Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh picked at 14, but there might have been another move there too. Anyway,
Okay, so this Sports Illustrated is just saying. I just googled Patriots draft day trade. So they traded 14 to 17, and also got pick 120 from that. So I think that was the pick they used for Chad Ryland.
well, that's what you get for getting Christian Gonzalez fall to your lap, I guess.
Yeah.
You got to take a kicker who loses you games.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious if maybe they had traded. I thought they had traded from a little bit further up. So I was trying to consider like where the Chargers were and their needs for a corner. I don't believe the corner class is nearly as top or strong as like the big 4 or 5 at the top of this one, or 6 if you include Branch. But with the Chargers picking around 9, we'll see. Probably 10th, 11th, or when all said and done. You know, we talked about how the Chargers could do a soft rebuild, trading back and still letting one of those corners is one way to do it.
Yeah, I was surprised at how many people took an issue with my tweet today about cornerback being the main need right now in terms of draft status. But a lot of people were upset about that, and I was like, okay, they have 0 long-term assets at corner. Like everybody wants a receiver. I get it, but you have a wide receiver 1 still very much at the peak of his powers right now. Josh Palmer will be back next year, and I think can ascend to that wide receiver 2 role. And TBD on Quentin Johnston's future, but they just drafted him. So it's not like your receiver war chest is completely empty. Cornerback is completely empty, you guys. Like, I hate to tell you this, but like Michael Davis is a free agent after the year, and he's been bad this year and currently benched. Asante Samuel Jr. has taken a pretty big step back, and he is a high-end cornerback 2 at best in his career. You just benched Jasir Taylor, who you thought was going to be the long-term slot corner. You benched him for Isang Bassi, who you claimed off of waivers from the Broncos. Dean Leonard, like maybe he becomes something, but the war chest at corner is empty. Like that, I don't think that it's way too early to say like you have to draft a cornerback in round 1. But in terms of like pure roster construction, cornerback is absolutely the highest need, in my opinion, in terms of positional need.
That's a surprise that you got pushback.
Oh,
I think this class in general is like the one we just had is a pretty good example of the whole you can wait for a receiver if the class presents itself, especially if we just had this conversation. But if you have a wide receiver 1 and a 2, and I guess hopefully the Chargers feel they have a good 3 next year, you don't need to take 1 in the first round. Definitely don't need to take 1 at 9 or 10 or 11. It's not going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., so let's get that out of the way. You have no corners. I don't know if you can't hate this defense all year and complain about the coverage busts and then go take another receiver. I understand the Brock Bowers argument. I would get that. He's literally tight end 1 and, you know, maybe your second best receiving option on the team. But like, I don't know about another receiver. And frankly, do you trust the Chargers to make that pick at a receiver? I'd rather go get a corner and you throw 2 more darts at a round or day 2 receiver. You have another day 3 receiver if you want. And one of them is going to turn out pretty good, I hope. But this past class, I don't have it in front of me. There's like 10 guys who have 500, like more yards than the number 1 guy in the Patriots, which I know is not saying a lot. These guys are really contributing more than any other class I can recall. And if this receiver class is even better, yeah, man, wait for one of these receivers.
Yeah, and again, a lot can change. I still happen to think that this team wins probably 2 or 3 more games and plays their way out of a top 10 pick. But like positional need is one thing. Like who they should draft is another conversation. And that's what I think people were like not understanding. Is I was like, I haven't watched any of these guys. Like I'm just saying, like positional need, cornerback is highest on the list. Like obviously I'm not going to pass on Brock Bowers if given the chance. Like I think he's a generational tight end prospect. I don't know if he's going to be there where the Chargers are picking. And also I haven't watched any of the cornerbacks. Like all I know is that the Chargers have no corners and therefore it is the highest on the board in terms of positional need.
Right.
And people brought up offensive tackle too, and it's like, I get it. Trey Pipkins has not been great this year, but they just gave him a contract. Like you're gonna bench a guy who has a $10 million cap hit or something like that next year. Like I don't see that happening. I see them more like drafting a project offensive tackle, and then maybe next year you take another offensive tackle in the early rounds. But yeah, my whole thing was like they have no corners, and people were like, "Well, what about a running back? And what about a wide receiver?" And I'm like, okay, it's November. This is where we're at.
Please not a running back, first off.
No.
Yeah.
There's no Bijan in next class either.
No, you won't see that for a bit anyhow. Yeah, I'll be honest right now. If you had to redo 21, I would have taken a corner over the two receivers that a lot of you guys would prefer to have over Quentin Johnson. I think Joey Porter Jr. would be awesome on this team. He's
so good.
Like, of course, the fact he fell to 33 is just stupid. Same as Brian Branch and Joey Porter Jr. falling to the second round is just bonkers to me. But that's
Brian Branch would be so awesome on this defense right now.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I appreciate Zay and Addison and what they've been able to do. But the play, I think, honestly, in the first round, even knowing how those receivers turned out, still, I think would have been corner, if you can include Brian Branch as a corner. Either of those guys and taking a receiver later, or your Marvin Mims, your Jaden Reed, literally everybody that we talked about in any other round.
Yeah.
That's a better combo. But
yeah,
future thing. We'll talk about who's there. I might change my mind eventually. But I agree. Corner, in terms of the position, is absolutely should be the favorite.
And not taking a project linebacker in the third round would have been nice too.
Yeah. Worth it if he starts next year, but
yeah, we'll see what happens there. But before we kind of dive more specifically in here, I do want to touch on this because people are bringing it up. Tara specifically, Brandon Staley made a comment today that Joshua Palmer could potentially return this season. There's been no qualifier in terms of like he's out for the season. All we know is that he has a knee sprain, which I was told when it happened was definitely an IR situation. It was a multi-week situation. The way it was framed to me when he was placed on IR was more of kind of a 4 to 6 week thing. So I think Josh Palmer will come back at some point. His window to return is officially now. Like he's missed his 4 games. Like they could open his window to return at any point. And the Chargers miss him dearly. I would love to have Josh Palmer out there right now after watching the film from yesterday. But what do you make of the way Brandon Staley framed this? Because it definitely made it seem like a longer term injury than I think was initially framed that way.
Yeah, when he first said that Josh Palmer will definitely miss 4 games and then we'll kind of see from there, that to me indicated this was going to be longer than the 4 games. It was going to take a bit. I think you have to find a way, even if you do a kind of, well, Jalen Guyton was on the PUP list, but they kind of stashed him for a bit before then, and they activated him. You got to find a way to get Palmer back. You cannot end his season. If he's even only going to get you 3 games at the very end of the year, you can't just leave him on IR. He needs to return. They need to see what they have in him and see what this kind of group all looks together as the trio, because this is more than likely the trio that's going to lead the Chargers next season. So I hope he returns. I assumed that he would. He has played through quite a bit. He is very tough. He said as much, after the game. He posted like, I missed the memo where I'm supposed to not like go out there for my guys or whatever it was.
Right.
He's going to go out there and play. He's going to be tough. And I mean, kind of secure that wide receiver 2 spot heading into next season potentially. So yeah, I think he will return. I hope he does, because they desperately need him. And right now, Keenan Allen did not practice with a quad injury.
Yeah, which is a whole other thing. So, it's unfortunate that Josh Palmer has dealt with some injuries, because like I think he really was about to take that leap in terms of like being a legit wide receiver too. Going forward in this league, and I understand like people have been maybe like underwhelmed by him, which I've never really gotten, to be honest with you. Like I think he's produced when given the chances. And I mean, you look at the games when he was a starter before the Bears injury, he went, Vegas, he had 3 receptions, 77 yards, had the huge play certainly left some meat on the bone there. Same thing with the Cowboys, 4 for 60. Then you had the huge game against the Chiefs where he was 5 for 133 when he obviously got injured. And that to this day is the best performance that any cornerback has put up on L'Jarius Sneed, who's like a legit CB1 in the league right now. So they miss Palmer dearly. And obviously, the Quentin Johnston situation is not helping there. But I think Palmer, before that injury, was really taking a sizable leap in this league. And hopefully he's able to come back this season. If not, hopefully he's able to make a full recovery and really, take that next step next season. Because like you mentioned, like I think it's pretty solidified that it's him and that Keenan's wide receiver 1, Palmer's wide receiver 2 next year. And Quentin Johnson is going to have to fight like hell to replace Josh Palmer, because I think Josh Palmer is a legitimately good wide receiver 2 in this league. Yeah,
no, Palmer as the sort of 3 that stepped into 2 this year was on pace for like 1,400 yards.
Yeah,
that's nowhere near what Quentin Johnson is. I don't want to say capable of, but it's certainly not his current trajectory. So yes, you're right. He does have to fill that role, because if, let's say, Palmer goes down again, Quentin Johnson isn't going to step into, as he is right now, is not going to step into that wide receiver 2.5 and put up 1,400 yards or be on pace for that. It's not happening. So yeah, you're right. Quentin Johnson's going to fight like hell to get out there and be any bit decent and a part of this offense.
Yeah. But this situation, like we talked about on the Chargers show today, which if you miss it, check it out. We talked about the kind of mission for the next 6 weeks for the offense. Well, one of many missions, obviously, is being able to figure out how to elevate Quentin Johnston's floor and get him going in a way that will be conducive to him having a positive offseason and a positive sophomore season. So we'll see what happens there. All right, Tyler, let's dive in a little bit more to this specific matchup here. How are you framing, like, what is a successful outcome on Sunday? Because, like, they should win. Like, the Patriots are a terrible team. This is the kind of situation that the defense has historically played well in against a very bad quarterback. The Patriots defense is not the same Patriots defense as old, although we might get a JC Jackson revenge game. I don't even know if he's going to play or not. So for you, like what's the goal for Sunday? Because I think win-losses, I'm kind of past that at this point, honestly, unfortunately. So for you, like, what determines a successful performance from this team on Sunday?
Because I think the defense will, whether by design or because they're facing the Patriots, I think the defense will basically do its job. I don't think the Patriots offense is very good. The only thing they really have going for them is a run game, and the Chargers have been very good against that. So for me, a success in this game, outside of a win, is the offense fixing the 2 things that they have not. Now, fixing is a stretch. It's one game. Yeah. But I want to see them against, a pretty good defense and a good front overall. I think it's 12th in DVOA. I want to see them, 1, find a way to start working this run game, and 2, protect themselves in expected passing situations. And we just talked about these things, and it's very obvious things, but they both go hand in hand. So 1, can the run game get going enough to where you don't have to put yourself in these obvious passing situations or you're always in a 3rd and 10 situation? And 2, can you protect? I don't know how effective they've been, but you look at guys like Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar and the linebackers, like, they are going to blitz and they are going to try their best. Like, I'm sure Bill Belichick is doing one of 2 things. 1, take away Keenan Allen. 2, can we get a free rusher out there? And the Keenan Allen, we'll see if he even plays. That's going to happen. Like, they're going to try to take him away. Maybe it's not a good game. Kellen Moore's been doing a good job either way, moving Keenan Allen around. That I'm confident in. But the way they attack with the free rushers, how do you pick those guys up? Because if you want to pretend you have any bit of hope for not just this season, which I don't think there is, but next season with this offensive line and this blocking unit, you got to start figuring out these things, whether it's through Herbert to Keenan, the offensive line, the tight ends and how they're involved, etc. You got to figure this out, because these offensive linemen are all under contract next season. Corey Linsley, we'll see.
Yeah.
But this is basically your group next year. At least 4 out of the 5 of them are projected to be your guys. So how do you pick these things up and carry some momentum to where you feel like there's a discussion about, like you said, right tackle being a need for the Chargers at 9 or 10 or 11 or whatever they pick. Can we find a way for that not to be a need? Because financially they can't really afford it. And 2, like, they have, like you said, there's corner. There's so many other pressing needs. I really don't want the Chargers to have to take a right tackle so early, although there are very good options, it seems like.
Yeah, it seems like this is a great offensive tackle class. I think Dane Brugler had 7 or 8 in his first mock round in the first draft. So it's certainly that way. There's 3 like natural right tackles that are our first round consideration players this year. Again, I have not done any homework myself on that class. Potentially might start doing that in the next couple of weeks here, but we'll see. So this, elevating Quentin Johnston's floor is a mission for the rest of the season. Figuring out how to get the most out of this offensive line again is definitely a mission for the final 6 games. This defensive front is certainly not the same that we're used to. I mentioned Matthew Judon is injured. Keon White necessarily hasn't panned out, but you look at this group, man, certainly on the interior, they still have guys. You still have Christian Barmore, who leads them in pressures, Lawrence Guy, Devon Godchow, who are great run defense players. And then you have Deotric Wise, who's a really solid kind of Danico Autry type of inside-outside player. So this is definitely going to be a challenge for Will Clapp, Zion Johnson, and Jamari Salyer. And being able to handle this kind of challenge, I think, will kind of build some confidence for them. For what it's worth, I know Zion Johnson and Jamari each gave up a sack. I thought outside of that, the 2 of them were pretty solid against the Ravens. And I was pretty happy with the way that they played in general against Justin Madubuike and Travis Jones and those guys. I thought in particular, Jamari was fantastic. I thought he had some really big time blocks against those 2. So, this is a key moment. There's been, Jason, who's in the chat here, there's been a lot of miscommunications, like from a stunt standpoint across the board. I think in general, Rashawn and Zion have a really good chemistry together in that standpoint. But whenever it's like Zion and Will, or Will and Jamari, and obviously Jamari and Trey have not been able to get on the same page. Like it's been a struggle from a communication standpoint. And this is a team that loves to stunt and twist it and do all these kind of things to create pressure. And now that they don't have Judon, it's the only way they create pressure consistently. So this is definitely a game where the offensive line, specifically the interior, has to be on point, ready to rock, communicate, over communicate, pass off things. Otherwise, this could turn into another game where the offense is struggling to put up 14 points because they can't protect Justin Herbert.
I hope it doesn't come to that, dude. I can't imagine them having the struggles. I guess I might as well ask it. If there's no Keenan Allen on Sunday, what is our expectation for how this offense performs?
Oh man, 13 points if there's no Keenan Allen. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how they create consistent offense. Like, Jason in the chat pointed out like several times that Keenan Allen is just like cooking dudes. Like he's playing at an insane level. Like it's ridiculous watching him on tape right now. He just said throw it to Gerald Everett 20 times and pray. Honestly, like that's your path. Gerald Everett and Donald Parham, and just tight end them to death. Like I have so little faith right now in this wide receiver room executing a legitimate offense. You can design some touches for these guys, but Jalen Guyton is not the same as he's been. Obviously, he's coming off the injury. Like Alex Erickson and Keelan Doss are both out of practice squad elevations, and it's not like either one have been like great in the preseason. So like Terrell Bynum and Darius Davis and Quentin Johnston, I don't know, man. That's going to be tough.
I wouldn't mind a sort of blessing in disguise game where Keenan has to only miss one game and only one game. And I guess you just are forced to throw it to Quentin Johnston or use a run game. I would love a blessing in disguise game like that. But obviously I wish Keenan's out there to be healthy.
Yeah. Well, if your goal is to try and get the offense back on track, this is probably the game where you can afford to miss Keenan, because, the Patriots offense, I don't think is really going to do anything damaging. I think.
So I do think that the Ravens got away from a lot of what was A, working for them, and B, what the other teams did well against the Chargers. I don't know that it takes a complete genius to see that running backs and tight ends and receivers working the flats or completely in the middle of the field between the cover two. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of works for a lot of teams pretty well. And I don't know that. I mean, well, it's probably Bailey Zappe. I think Jordan Love is significantly better, but like Jordan Love and Jared Goff are not elite talents. You can find ways to get these guys easy completions to receivers, running backs, tight ends, etc. Hunter Henry revenge game could certainly be on the way. I mean, Demario Douglas, they get him screens routinely. You know, I didn't watch a ton of him, but against the Giants, I think he had at least 3 quick screens or quick passes that he made very productive. So that's going to be a challenge for the Chargers receivers, or nope, corners.
I thought in general there weren't as many coverage gaffes. I will say that, but like you mentioned, the Ravens were not like really pushing the boundary. It felt like the Ravens were like, hey, here's a slant because you're 10 yards off the football. Let's just keep doing that over and over again. Let's just throw it to the flat to Keaton Mitchell and all these guys. So it is going to be very interesting. Like Bailey Zappe is not scaring anybody. Like I think he's overall like a very similar player to Mac Jones. For what it's worth, I think the biggest difference is Bailey seems a little bit more willing to take chances downfield. He does have an ADOT that's like a full yard higher than Mac Jones this season. Mm-hmm. His time to throw is I think like 0.25 or 0.3 seconds higher. So he's a little bit more willing to hold on to the football and throw it deep, which I think should be good for the Chargers pass rush. The key thing on offense for the Chargers defense is defending the run, like you mentioned, like Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott. Like the Patriots are going to want to run the football. That's how they've been playing forever, obviously, and especially this season with everything that's been going on. So if you can stop the run and get Bailey Zappe into third and long situations, I think the defense can be very successful on Sunday because I don't think the Patriots offensive line is very good in pass protection. I don't think Bailey Zappe is very good. I don't think the receivers are very good. So it really is just like stop the run and you should be fine.
It almost feels like the Jets again, probably a better offensive line, but no Garrett Wilson. So you can just do that. It's not a good offense, man. Like just watching them, it was kind of sad to watch.
Yeah. It's like it sounds like Connor McDermott, who has never played offensive tackle in his career, is going to be starting at left tackle against Khalil Mack. So
yes,
that should be fun.
Oh yes, my sack record short is going to absolutely smash.
It's the Patriots offensive line. I mean, you showed the 2 rookies earlier, so it's a disaster. Like genuinely, like this should be a game where you're talking about like at least 6-7 sacks if you stop the run. Like you stop the run, you force the Patriots into third and long situations, and Khalil and Thule and Morgan Fox should eat on this week, honestly. And actually, I thought Justin Hollins showed some good flashes last week against the Ravens as well. He had one like gimme pressure, but I thought he had a couple really good rushes too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought so live as well. It took me a moment, but my mom kept pointing out, because of course my mom would, like, oh, number 58. And I had to do a double take because I'm used to the 5 being like 52.
Yeah,
but there's some really good stuff out there from Hollins. I was really surprised.
Yeah, so should be fun there. All right, so we've kind of highlighted a few things here, but Tyler, who's your biggest X factor of the week? Watching this Chargers offense, maybe Chargers defense against this Patriots team.
God. All right, I'll do it. Quentin Johnson versus JC Jackson. I think that the way, now it wasn't specifically a JC Jackson situation, but the way that Jalen Hyatt was able to push and both get yak and then just push the ball down the field or be the guy that received the ball down the field, a couple of corners, and I think 1 go ball. If the Chargers want to continue to push Quentin Johnson as their deep down the field receiver, there was opportunity for a guy to succeed last week in Jalen Hyatt. They didn't have to take him in the first round. But hey, there's an X factor that we've this is where we're at. The Quentin Johnston on go balls versus JC Jackson is the X factor. It was like the only thing that got going for the Giants last week. So I think there's a world where Quentin Johnston will at least catch one of the 4 passes thrown his way down the field.
I mean, if there's a game to get some confidence going, this could be it for Quentin Johnston. Ravens are a great defense. The Packers have some good corners. There's nothing like going up against a bad secondary to get your confidence going. So maybe Keenan isn't playing. Maybe he's not fully healthy. So yeah, this is where we're at. Quentin Johnston. I just kind of want to see, like, what does it look like? You pepper him with 6, 7 targets, 8 targets. I just want to see. Like,
me too, dude.
Like I'm so curious at this point. Like, okay, like we know that he's not obviously, a great contested catch guy at this point in this season. He needs to develop that aspect of things. He's kind of comfortable with like comeback routes, but like throw him a couple slants. Just see what happens, obviously he scored against the Lions on a kind of skinny slant thing, I guess, but I just want to see it. Like, you have nothing to lose this weekend. Like, you're playing a team that you should be able to hold under 14 points. Like, just go out there and throw Quentin Johnston 8 targets, throw Darius Davis 4 or 5. Like, just see what happens. Just see what these guys can do.
Yeah, you want to turn around a fan base really quick. Go roast JC Jackson. I promise you, man. Chargers fans will do a complete 180 and start building that statue. If you go out and roast JC Jackson on one play, you're good for the entire rest of the year. They will hold on to that.
If Quentin Johnston's first 100-yard game comes against JC Jackson, like, people are going to start putting like the statue up already of him out of SoFi. So make it happen. Let's just do it. Let's get it. Let's get to work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I think for me, X factor. Jason pointing him out in the chat. I actually thought that Jalen Hawkins showed some good signs against the Ravens this past week. Him and Alohi Gilman communicated pretty well. Maybe that was, Alohi just kind of overemphasizing the communication. But we've seen some really good games from like Dean Marlowe as a safety 3. The Chargers love playing with 3 safeties on the field. We know that Derwin James is going to play in the slot this more often. So it sounds like Jalen Hawkins is going to have a role to close out the season. And I'm curious if he can become anything. Like, he technically will be on the roster because they claimed him. So they inherited his contract from the Falcons. So technically he'll be on the roster next year too, assuming they want to keep him, obviously. So this is, a 6-week audition for Jalen Hawkins to see if he can, challenge for a role on this team. Obviously, Alohi Gilman's a free agent after this season. We don't know where JT Woods is at. He's still technically on the NFLI list with his illness. So Jalen Hawkins, man, like, this is going to be a game where he's going to be very involved in the run game, like we just talked about. What does he look like in run support? Is he going to cover Hunter Henry from time to time? What does that look like? So I am curious if there's anything there from a player development standpoint on Mr. Jalen Hawkins.
Was there any specific word from Brandon Staley about why they went with Hawkins over Marlowe, or do you feel it's more just, hey, we got this guy for a bit longer, we might as well give it a shot?
I don't think he was asked about it specifically. The whole thing from the today they asked about the guys who didn't play last week. The whole thing was about competition in practice and maybe opening up some chances for other guys. I think they just wanted to mix it up and see what they could have done. Honestly, I thought Dean Marlowe had been playing pretty solid for this team. So I was pretty surprised to see Hawkins out there over Dean Marlowe, but Hawkins is, I think, a better athlete. He's a bigger body than Dean Marlowe. So I do think he is kind of that type of safety that they wanted Mark Webb to be, a guy who can maybe kind of cover up for when Derwin's closer to the line. He can kind of play in the box behind him. He can cover the slot. So I am curious to see if Jalen Hawkins becomes anything, but Brandon Staley has not specifically been asked about like the difference between the two. But it sounds like he likes Jalen Hawkins a decent amount.
Okay, I totally missed that point. So thank you for pointing it out about him being on the roster next season. So that's interesting. And then Jason's endorsement in the chat, your endorsement here. Yeah, I'll definitely go watch Jalen Hawkins.
Thomas Martinez pointing out Hawkins is much more physical. I think Dean Marlowe is like a really solid safety forward to have. Like, if they want to bring him back, I'm cool with it next year. But Hawkins potentially could become like a starter type player. I think he still has some potential there. He was drafted, I think, in the 3rd round or 4th round. So
I was just looking at it too. I forget.
Did you know that Keenan? You're saying Keenan Allen kicked in high school? I didn't know that.
He at least kicked once for sure. He was on the pod with, I think, Drew Tranquil and was talking about his playing days. And I think he just like had a couple of kicks in high school or whatever. So he can definitely do it. But I think he either like shanked one once. He wasn't good at it. I don't think. He's definitely going to be a better receiver in the NFL, I think. But
yeah, for sure. I know Justin Herbert actually kicked in high school too. It was pretty good at that. So I guess he's the emergency kicker, maybe.
Yeah. J.K. Scott. Did they ever have J.K. Scott warming up when like Hopkins was injured? In game against like the Broncos.
I know he did kickoffs when against Denver.
Right.
I don't think he ever tried to like kick field goals.
God, just give me like a Herbert punt. You know,
I'd love to see. I wouldn't love to see it because Cameron Dicker is a fantastic kicker. I want him healthy all the time. But go vote for Dicker as a Pro Bowler, by the way. He deserves it. Mm-hmm. But the Houston Texans had a kicker injury, and they're like third string running back Dare Agumbawale like had to kick and kick off and things like that. It's just always funny to see like what guys can do. Like, I never would have guessed. And if like they've had that situation a bunch because Justin Reed kicked. So it's always interesting to see like what players can do outside of like their position, because they're like everybody in the NFL grows up playing like both ways in high school or doing multiple things. So it is always interesting to see what players can do outside of their usual stuff.
Yeah, so we've had Dontrell Inman at corner against the Raiders as like almost like a half of an entire game.
Right. Yeah.
We almost had Easton Stick play safety or something, or was that just a practice?
I think that was a practice thing, but that was his second season, I believe. He was taking safety reps in practice. Yeah, that was an interesting one.
That's neat. Obviously we've had Keenan against the Jets, as people mentioned in the chat, just play the Hail Mary and they get destroyed. On that return.
His interception return was so funny.
It was. They just got killed. No Hail Mary pick six on that one.
Because he was like a great safety in high school too. He was, I don't know if you know this, but he was actually recruited by Alabama as a safety.
Yeah. Was he recruited by Cal as a safety too, or no?
Cal was a receiver thing.
Okay. Yeah. I remember the Alabama part.
Yeah.
Who else did we had? I think that's mostly it. We've tried Kenneth Murray at edge.
You had to do that one.
Hey man,
I just for like kicks and giggles, I would love to see Derwin play receiver just to like see what it would look like.
Yeah, I would love to see Derwin play strong safety. Honestly,
shit, no kidding. Oh man, this has been a funnier show than I would have thought. So I appreciate you, Tyler.
I'm just over it, dude. I'm so over it. It's gonna get worse. If they lose to the Patriots, man, just join us. Stay tuned. It'll be absolutely legendary.
We tried Cardell Jones at quarterback.
Hey now, be nice.
Catching strays. He's like a media analyst too. Nobody clipped this out to show him.
He is? That's cool. College football?
Yeah, he's college football. He does for CBS.
That makes sense.
Scott Malik at fullback. Yeah, I want to see that one. We've obviously seen Jordan McFadden at fullback.
Yeah.
Oh man, I kind of wish the lateral from Sunday night counted as a pass for Keenan.
Oh yeah,
because he's just inflate those passing stats.
Yeah,
he's got a good arm.
Yeah. So. Is that a Herbert passing stat then? Does he get the next like 7 yards? Interesting.
So I think technically Keenan gets the catch.
Right.
And then Austin gets the yards. If I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. Someone will have to tell me. That's funny. Yeah, give Keenan more passes. Let's do it. Yeah.
That's
a receiver. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been going for about 50 minutes. So if you guys have any questions here, we'll wrap it up with a quick Q&A. Like I mentioned, if you feel so inclined, super chats are always appreciated. What do you say, Taylor? Like 10 minutes for questions?
Yeah, sure. As long as y'all got good ones, we'll be here.
Okay, cool. So Q&A for the next 10 minutes. Hopefully you guys checked out Alex Insdorf video this week, as well as Alex Katzen. If you are all in on the draft, which sounds like a good amount of you are, Alex Katzen has been doing draft content for us all season long, covering where the Chargers scouting staff has been and the prospects that they've been looking at. So please go check them out. So we talked about the tight end or corner first round. Brock Bowers is the only tight end I think that I would be interested in the first round. So if he's there, I think you take him over basically anybody in the class.
I would assume so, but like I said earlier, like 2 months ago, I don't watch college football, so I literally just like naturally find out who Marvin Harrison Jr. is watching other people, like watching Paris Johnson film. I'm like, oh look, it's that guy. So I'll get around to it
for sure. For sure. I watched Pac-12 stuff. I watch Utah playing, obviously.
Sure.
And then even like the big games, I kind of don't watch. Like I just have been less and less into college football because it's such a monopoly sport at this point in time. Like the good teams are always good. Now that it's NIL stuff, it's impossible for Georgia and Alabama and these teams to be bad because they can just throw money around. So yeah.
Here's your offensive line question. How other than ever having a good run game, do you scheme around an offensive line that struggles with stunts and twists?
I think more bodies. Obviously, if you can keep 6 people in for protection purposes, that makes things easier. I mentioned this on the Chargers channel, but one thing the 49ers and the Shanahan types do is you just outright slide. Like everybody slides the gap to the left, everybody slides the gap to the right. And then you have a running back or tight end kind of fill and replace. It just makes things easier than trying to sort things out as they happen, which is a lot of communication. It's a lot of, just like trust and experience that you have to build up. So those are 2 ways. I think also just like a lot of play action. We haven't seen a ton of bootlegs for Justin Herbert this year. It's about the same amount as last year, but I like it. That's always been something I wish would increase. Obviously is more play action, more bootlegs, more RPOs helps a lot as well. I think that's a good way you can kind of scheme some touches up. Like we've seen them do that against like the Vikings, who do a ton of stunts and pressures and things like that. It was a ton of RPO, like wide receiver screens, slants, kind of things. So that could be a game plan that they could lean on more going forward that they've done, as opposed to like those other changes that they haven't necessarily shown a lot on film yet.
Okay, sounds good. Slightly related then, Isabel mentions, do you think we'll see Steven Anderson elevated with Van Ness still out? Which is unfortunate, man. That concussion must be nasty.
Yeah, so again, didn't practice. They elevated Hunter Kampmoyer and then only used him once, and he had a great block on that one play, and then they didn't use him again. So I was like, that was cool to watch. Maybe Steven Anderson's still getting acclimated to the playbook and things like that, still working back into football shape. I do kind of think that it would be Kampmoyer again, just because they were kind of patient with Van Ness, they were kind of patient with Dean Marlowe. Hunter Kampmoyer has obviously been with the team all spring, summer, fall long. I think if Nick Van Ness can't play, I do think it would be Hunter Kampmoyer again. And would please use him because I am tired of watching Stone Smart block.
It's tough because there's I feel like there's 2 sides and very polar opposites on the Stone Smart fandom, where it's you see the receiving potential and some people are like, yeah, do so much more of that, involve him way more. And then some people would watch the blocking and say, let's not do that anymore. There's definitely a middle to that, but yeah, the blocking hasn't been great.
His receiving stuff is fun, but they're trying to use him as like a lead blocker a couple of times, and I was like, this just is not working. Gerald Everett, I thought, had a great blocking performance on Sunday night for what it's worth.
Always does. This year in particular, I feel like.
Tara asking about if you could choose 3 to 4 guys to keep, who would you keep between Keenan, Khalil, Mike, and Joey? We kind of talked about this. Some of these decisions I think have just naturally been made. But in your ideal world, Tyler, which of the 3 would you keep?
Oh boy. Keenan and Khalil are the obvious one too. And then I actually think I might go with Mike Williams in this case, only because I know that I think Thule will do pretty darn well at edge 2. I'm not 100% certain that I feel great about anybody that's like, well, let's say Quentin Johnson, for example. I've seen what Mike Williams can do with this offense and Josh Palmer and that trio, and I really like that trio. It's unfortunately just not going to be the case next season. Joey, I wish I could say Joey because I would almost prefer him over Mike Williams in most aspects, but yeah, I'm going to say Mike Williams, and it alleviates some of the need to drop to receiver next year anyway.
Yeah, I think I probably would choose Mike as well, as much as I love Joey, and I think like at his best, he's, you know, a truly like dominant player. I just don't know how likely it is to get that back out of him. You know, with Mike Williams, like I feel like it's pretty easy for me to envision Mike coming back from the ACL, being his usual self again. He's got a full offseason to recover. So I think that's probably who I would choose as well. In terms of like trade value, who would you say has more value, or do you think that Mike and Joey would both kind of have about the same value on the open market?
No, I think Joey should have more. I believe they're roughly the same age, you know, one class and then the next class. Mike Williams has the worst. Like Joey Bosa could actually potentially play this season. Mike Williams has the ACL, so I think Joey just naturally at this point probably has more value. And then I just think pass rushers, I think it, given like, okay, in the draft, can I find another Joey Bosa or can I find another Mike Williams? I think you feel better about finding another Mike Williams than Joey. So I think Joey overall.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Pass rushers are harder to find than receivers, I think, at this point.
Oh, yeah. Wait. Oh, I forgot to mention this. I'm going to find it. Do you know who is like top 10 in pass rush productivity? Wait, where is it? Oh, where are you? No, it's like a snap count issue. Hold on. I'll find it. Do you know who leads all rookies in pass rush productivity? Edge rushers.
Edge rushers?
Mm-hmm. 150 snaps played, though.
Am I overthinking this? Is it Thule?
No, he's second, but it's actually BJ Ojolari. I noticed that today. I didn't realize it, but
yes, my guy.
Yeah. So
how many snaps has he played? I don't feel like it's been a lot.
No, 148. A lot of the guys that are higher up. So BJ Ojolari is 148. He's in first. Then Thule with 329. Then Miles Murphy, but only 104 snaps played. And then Will Anderson, Byron Young, etc.
All right.
Not a lot of surprises then with this top group.
Yeah. Anthony Martinez here has a question about Jamari Sawyer. Do you think they should switch him to the other side? Have gotten that question about switching him sides, switching him to the right tackle spot. And again, I totally get it. Like Trey has not had a great season. What do you make of? Because we all felt really good about Jamari playing guard. Obviously, has any of that changed for you, or like where are you at with Jamari long term here?
I think there's a world where there should be a little bit of competition next year, even though I feel like he has the lead. But McFadden definitely has an athleticism that Jamari does not. So I think there's a world where you have a kind of a competition, but I think it'll be Jamari. The only question I really have about this interior that might save them, where are we at with the conversation of Zion being a center of the future rather than sticking him at guard? Although that is another change for him.
Yeah. In regards to Jamari specifically, I'm not interested in changing him. I think he's really starting to settle in at right guard. I think there's definitely some communication things that need to be worked out between him and whoever is playing right tackle. Obviously, in this instance, it's Trey. But he's really settling in, like individually, one-on-one. Like he's really having a strong second half of the season here, in my opinion. I do think that he probably needs to trim down a little bit. I'm not saying that in a critical way. I just think that there are some instances where teams are able to kind of take advantage of his lack of athleticism. But like Jamari is kind of exactly who I expected him to be at this point in time. Like his hands are so strong. His anchor ability is so outstanding. Like very rarely does he lose to a bull rush. Very rarely does he lose to a guy trying to be more physical than him. We saw him get after the Ravens after they hit Justin. So he is the kind of their enforcer type. It's just like he needs more time and reps there to get more comfortable at like the mental aspect of playing the guard position. In terms of Zion, I think it's worth exploring his potential at center. I just don't know like what coaching staff would be willing to come in here and change his position again. Is that a conversation that they currently have had? I kind of doubt that because they've been so intentional about him staying at guard. I think you probably just have to figure out how to get him back on track to what he showed as a rookie. Like I mentioned, I think it's a lot of technique things. But I think switching in positions could result in a even worse third season.
Yeah, I agree. Right. You hope it's a better one, but if we get the same kind of season or worse, then that would have been a wasted pick and this entire season for him. McFadden didn't play any center in college.
He was offensive tackle. Yeah.
And then he didn't play any center in camp.
He's never played any center. I don't think he did any center work at the Senior Bowl circuit. Or wait, he was a Shrine Bowl guy. I don't know if Alex Katzen is in the chat here, but I can ask him if he did any center work. But I think it was at the Shrine Bowl, it was tackle and guard. I don't think he ever like rotated into center.
Okay. Yeah, they're in a tough spot there. It's going to be very tough for the Chargers to find a center next year because they'll have to allocate a really high pick to that, which I don't think they can afford to do, or sign somebody. And I don't know they can barely afford to do that.
Yeah. I just want to look at this real quick. I know we're like out of time.
That's all good.
Over the cap doesn't have anything up yet for 2024.
Who are you looking at? Oh, free agents?
I'm looking at free agent centers. Okay. Because I don't think they'd be able to afford like an expensive one. Like Connor Williams is a free agent and like stuff like that. I don't even know who the class is. Spot Rack's taking forever too.
Not gonna lie, I couldn't figure out who some of these people were for a second, and then I realized it was NBA. Like, who are these centers?
Oh man, this center free agent class is brutal. Oh my
Jason Kelce, let's do it. Age 36.
Obviously Jason Kelce is probably staying there. I don't think they can afford Connor Williams. Is Andre James good? I don't even know.
I don't remember him being good. Scott Quessenberry. Connor, so you say Connor McGovern, Lloyd Cushenberry, who Biadash. I can't say I know a lot about free agent centers.
No, a lot of these guys are backups. Tyler Biadash, I think, has played well enough to probably. The Cowboys don't really have a ton of money. That could be somebody, maybe.
Yeah, especially if Kellen Moore's still around.
Yeah.
What's Connor Williams' projected market value?
I'm on Spotrac. Yeah, I'm on Spotrac too.
13.5.
Man, I think you're probably looking at Will Clapp and like a third round pick kind of thing.
I guess even though I do feel like we know where we're going with this, I guess we should wait until we hear what Corey Linsley's situation is.
For sure.
Is it a solvable within a season thing, or is it like this is the end of the road?
Yeah. I hope it's not. I hope we get to see him back, but we'll see what happens. Jason likes Andre James. There we go. Any other questions that you wanted to flag?
No, I think we're pretty much all the way through. I'd hate to end on that specific question, but
it is what it is. You know, we can't get random food questions every episode to end the show.
No, but Jason will definitely throw in one right before you're saying goodbye.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoy the show. We'll be live on. Actually, I don't know if we're going to be live on Saturday. I think we'll be live on Saturday.
I'll be there.
All right, there we go. We'll do our usual Saturday show and then live on Sunday afternoon to recap. Should be fun. So it's always fun with you guys in the chat. We have a good conversation. Had a lot of laughs tonight. So Jason said thoughts on Outback Steakhouse. Oh man. All right.
Just make your steaks at home, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Chain steakhouses are terrible.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Thomas, Home Alone or Elf? That's Elf for me. I'm not a Home Alone guy.
Same. I definitely grew up with Elf more anyway. So yeah, Elf. Oh yes, I can't wait to get to just the Christmas questions part of our season. That sounds great.
Man, I can't believe we're in December on Friday. That's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Like I said, make sure like the video, subscribe, tell a friend, all that good stuff. We do really appreciate it. It does help continue to grow the show, which we are still trying to do, obviously. So appreciate you guys. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next time. As always, bolt up.